Hello, my name is Cassandra and I'm an account manager at PersonalFinanceLab. Today I'm going to show you how the platform works and how to get started on making your first class. So right now we are logged into the Instructor Dashboard. This is where you can see any announcements that you post to your students, and you can post newest announcements. You have the forum here, which you can turn on and off at any time. This is where students can post questions or comments to each other. We have a couple other widgets, like the top traded securities in your class, the portfolio rankings. So depending on how many students are in your class, you will see more and more students. You can click on any one of them to see the open positions they have, what transactions they've made, a detailed balance sheet, and even their trade notes. You can also see the progress of your students in their assignments. This will just be the percentages of how much they have actually completed. And again, you can click on the details to see which assignments that you've assigned them have they done. Also visible from your dashboard is the budget game rankings board. This is where you can see how many months have been completed by each student, their scores, and again, you can see how they are doing in all areas of the game, what actions they have taken. If you'd like to see what the student view looks like, you can click this button here and you'll see their perspective. So we have the assignments front and center. If they click on the view button, that'll take them to where they can actually do their lessons. Personal Finance Lab has 300 plus assignments on personal finance, investing, economics, business, career prep, and more. Each assignment comes with a pop quiz at the end. So it comprises videos, interactive elements, and of course text. So at the end, the students put in their answers here and their score appears on the next page. To toggle over to the other parts of the platform, you can click this button here to bring you to the budget game. If students are brand new to the platform, we recommend that they check out our tutorial videos. We have some great videos for the stock game, some overview videos of just how to use the site and the research tools, as well as more videos about the budget game. For example, understanding your credit score, your net worth, and your quality of life score. Once your students are ready to go, they can click on the play game. So once your students start for the first time, they are asked to select their fixed expenses. So in the back end, you can choose what is the middle option, and the program will create a lower and a higher option. These can also be changed at any time by clicking the buttons here at the bottom of the screen, and your students will have a little caveat about what fee they will have to pay if they want to break their contract. So after selecting your fixed expenses, it's now time to play. At the top of the screen here, you can see all of these scores. They're updated automatically as you roll the dice and interact with the different cards that pop up. So we have the net worth here that will take in how you're doing in your checking and savings, and subtracting from it what you owe on your credit card and your outstanding bills. Your credit score also will update automatically based on how you're using your credit card. And that's one area that you'll see in the game. As your students pay off their card and keep a healthy balance on their limit, their credit limit will actually go up. The quality of life score is unique to the budget game on Personal Finance Lab, and that is how we quantify keeping a nice balance of needs versus wants and all the different areas that are important. So for example, a student can't just get away with saving every penny and working all the time. The game score is going to be a composite of all of these scores, plus if your students are meeting their monthly savings goals. So the beginning of each month, your students will do their monthly budget. And so there are two modes. Right now, I am playing the full-time mode. There's also another option to go part-time mode. I'll show you a bit more of that in a moment. So on the side here, we have a handy little calculator that your students can use. And we also have down here an overview of the assignments that we've given your students. They can click from here to go over to their assignment screen. So after they put in their projected earnings, the system calculates their after-tax pay. And then going over to the next screen, students see the fixed expenses they've just selected for themselves. So this is like their overhead, and they have the variable expenses that they know about. However, there is a lot of unplanned expenses that happen for everyone. And as students go further and further in the game, there will be a number here that will be an average of their past variable expenses. On the first month, you just have to hazard a guess. So I'm going to put $500 for this month. And the final screen, which is perhaps the most important part of the game, are the savings goals for the month. So over here, we do have a suggestion to try and save 10% of your expected income. And on the side here, students can see their percentage go up and down depending on what they put in this box. So here we have from our first screen, our total net income minus our expenses. So that's a combination of our fixed and variable expenses. And this is how much surplus right now I'm expecting. So that's a really nice amount. I'm going to try and aim to put $400 for this month, which is very high and very easy actually because I have such a large amount. But of course, it entirely depends on what kind of game mode we have set up. So once you start playing the game, different cards pop up. This is one of our lesson cards, your debit and credit cards. For almost every choice you make in the game, you'll need to choose between using your debit card and credit card. To continue, enter the day of the month when your credit card statement will be issued. There are about 1 to 2 pop-up lessons like this in every month of the game. So students will see this pop up here. They will read about debit and credit cards, get a little bit more information that will help them in the game as well as in life. And once they have the right answer, they return to the game and they put the right answer in the little slot here. The game forces them to keep on retaking this until they get the right answer, so they can't continue until they get it right. All right. So we can see here that my rent has just been issued, and the little bed symbol that's ticking shows me the day that my rent is due. And I can also see here on the side that I can have my rent statement over here. But I've also got this pop-up. You need to refill your toll pass to use the highway. How would you like to pay for this? So in the game, students choose between how they want to pay for things. And in cases like this, they can't just choose no. They have to pay for this as something they need. So I'm going to put this on my debit card for now. And you can see that all of my stats have now changed at the top of the screen. I'm going to take this moment to also pay for my rent. So if I hadn't paid this off on time, I would actually have a late fee here. But luckily, I am before the due date. So I'm going to put the full payment here on my debit card, and everything has updated. Here's another pop-up, skinny flat. Your bicycle tire is flat. You need to replace it. How would you like to pay for this? I'm going to put this one on my credit card, as you can see here. And you can at any time see your credit card statement by clicking this button here. And it'll show up all of the fees that you have currently paid for on your credit card. You can pay the minimum balance or the total amount due. And you can also see your account summary. So this takes you to how you are performing based on your savings goals for the month. So I set my saving goals for 400, just a little reminder here, and how I'm doing on my goal. This is where you can actually transfer money between accounts. So I'm going to just put for now $100 from my checking into my savings account, and you'll see that everything is updated automatically. So I got a lot of car themed things this month. You need a parking permit to park at your school, $87. All right, I'll put that also on my credit card. Each month goes in the same kind of rotation. When students are playing the part-time mode, they're going to be paid weekly. And if they move to the full-time mode, they're paid bi-weekly. So this is an example of a card that relates directly to the quality of life. So it's not exactly about the money that I'm spending. It's about the choices that I'm making in life. A student in your class keeps asking to borrow your notes. Do you trust you'll get them back? I'm gonna trust them and hope that they give it back. And you can see that my quality of life score just went up. So now it is Friday, and I'm also out of pens. You are out of pens and paper. Stop by the stationery store and stock up. I will put that on my debit card. And it's also grocery day, so I have to put this on my debit card because I have not enough space left on my credit card right now. And it's payday, the best day of the week. So you can see the breakdown here. A lot of these amounts you can set in the back. You can change the hourly rate. You can also change the income amount. So that can be personalized to your area. And once this is all paid off, I can actually go ahead and pay off my credit card or anything else I want to do with those funds. The last card I want to show you is the weekend option card. So students can choose between working extra hours to make extra money, spending time with friends and family, doing chores around the house, or studying. This is a big part of the quality of life score, is doing an even amount of all of these choice cards. And if they spend too much time on one of them and not the others, their life will suffer, and they'll see more pop-up cards related to that. So for now, I'm just going to click the study card. So borrowed book. One of your classes required a very expensive textbook. You were able to borrow a copy from a friend from your study group who took this class last year, saving you a bunch of money. So this is another kind of card that shows you the consequences of my actions, because I showed earlier in the week that I was more giving. I'm now getting something back for being that kind of a person. So there are consequences in the game based on the kind of life you're living. So the month continues like this. It takes about 20 minutes of gameplay to complete each month of the game, and you can set the parameters for how many months a student plays the game. Related to the budget game are also our statements area. This is an area that we've recently updated so that it looks and feels more like an online account. Everything's very clear of whether things were a payment or an expense. And all these things are able to be exported to either Excel or Google Sheets. So if you want your students to do kind of personalized budgeting, they can do that based on their spending and saving in the game. To move over to the stock game, you just click this bright green button and you're brought back to the dashboard. So there are a couple of important areas for the stock game. First, we have the research area. So this is where students can get either some trading ideas or do advanced quotes. And again, if they don't know how to even get started with this, under tutorial videos, we do have information about how to use the research tools and the different order types, and also how to trade all the different types of securities. So here are students able to just type in the name of a company. So let's say I want to know more about Nike. I can click on this symbol here, and this will load up all the information about the company, a little snapshot of how it's doing. I can see a graph of how it's been performing over the last 3 months, the last year, the last 5 years. There is loads of news here that is up to date on everything that's been related to Nike. And on the side here, you're able to get all kinds of information about the company, more charts, SEC filings, and corporate action. So they can do very in-depth research on each company that is traded in the US Stock Exchange. And if they have decided they are interested in moving forward with investing in this company, they can just click on trade. And this will bring them over to the trading window. So depending on what you've enabled, you'll students see various little buttons here. Of course, you're able to customize this if you only want your students trading the US stocks and other securities. But if you did want to enable a couple others, you are able to turn them on and off from the admin center over here, where you can edit the rules. We also have international exchanges in Latin America, Europe, and Asia. At the bottom of the screen, there's more information, again, about the company news, analyst ratings, giving a bit more information if this is a good buy, and what different analysts are recommending for this stock. You can see price history and do a little bit of technical analysis if you're feeling up for it. You can also access the financial statements. So you can go quite deep into understanding the fundamentals of each company. And of course, this is where you can change what kind of order type it is. So at this time, I'm just going to put in about 5 and click preview. So you can see it has been loaded up at the last day market price. If I'm happy with the purchase, I click on preview. And it tells them the estimated total cost of purchasing these shares. Another great feature that you can make mandatory is that every time a student places a trade, either to buy or sell, they have to put a trade note that explains why they're making this purchase. From here, you're able to go to the portfolio or place another order or even see the order history. So I'm going to look at my portfolio, and you'll see here that this is an open order because right now the stock market is not open. So it will just stay here in pending orders until later in the day. And because I don't have anything else in my portfolio, there's a list of suggested other stocks. From here, you can also see all the other types of securities. If I had bonds or mutual funds, I'd be able to see all of them from this screen. Under my portfolio is where you're able to see all the different types of positions. So you can see your open positions. And again, this will include all the open orders and things that you've purchased. Going over to my portfolio, students are able to see their open positions. So they can see all of the stocks that they have. If they want to trade them, they can just click this button and it'll bring them back to the trading screen. Clicking on the plus sign, they can get more information about how their stocks are performing. They can also see other securities that they've purchased, for example, bonds or mutual funds. Also under my portfolio, they can see their transaction history. So all of the buy and sell orders that they've made, and all of this information is exportable. So they can put that into Excel to do further analysis. And another very popular page is the My Rankings. This is where students can see how they're performing against other students in their class. Once you have more students participating, it gets more interesting, and you can see how the rankings change based on a weekly or a monthly basis. Another area that students might want to look at are their account balances. And this is just an overview of how they're doing and how much money they have left to invest and how much money they've spent on various commissions and things like this. Under the dashboard is where students are able to access their assignments. And as you saw previously, they're able to access that from various other screens. So depending on how you set up your assignments, it might be listed as modules like this, where you actually have things selected based on periods of time or based on subject. You can also set it up where you just put the entire curriculum available and students are able to go at their own pace and choose what lessons they want to learn about. The last area that is interesting for students are the achievements. These are badges that students earn based on their actions in the stock game, the budget game, and also in their lessons. So you can see I've actually earned a couple of badges. I have gone part way to getting some of my other badges, and the rest are not yet acquired. So kind of is a bit of a roadmap of where to go next. For most of you, this is the first screen that you will see when logging in for the first time. This is the class creation page. Here you can put the name of your class. You can put as many classes as you want together. It really depends on how you want to organize yourself. You can organize it by block, for example, block 1 or period 1, or you could just have it be fall semester. It really depends on how you want to organize it. The description, you can get very detailed if you want, but this is where your students are going to see a little description if they've been sent registration links to several classes, so you can know, oh, is this the right one? Here you put an average of how many students you think are going to be registered in your class. Down here under is your contest public or private? This is just an extra level of security if you want your students to have to put in a password to be able to access the registration form. Making it public doesn't mean that anyone can join. Students still need to have the registration link to be able to join your class. You can set your registration dates to be narrow or the entire semester. You can change the time zone. You can turn on or off the forum at any time if students are abusing the forum feature. And down here is where you can turn on or off the badges. This is what I was just showing you a moment ago under the achievements page. And certificates. So we have 2 completion certificates available. One of them is called Investing 101. So in this case, students have to complete the 10 chapters of the Investing 101 introduction course to the stock market. It includes vocabulary quizzes as well as chapter exams. And the financial literacy certification includes completing all the personal finance lessons, 12 months of the budget game, and a certain amount of trades in the stock market to get that certificate. So you can, again, turn these on or off at any time, and they are included with any products that you purchase from PersonalFinanceLab. Here's where you can set up the parameters of your budget game. 18 here means that that's how many months in the game your students will be playing. Again, it takes about 20 minutes to complete. So if you want your students to play for less time, for example, the equivalent of a year, you can shorten this or make it longer if you want them to go for longer. The speed limit feature is a new introduced item where we wanted to make sure that students are able to be paced with the rest of the class. There are some students who finish the entire game in a week, so this is where you can actually limit how many months they can complete within a week of real time. Here under budget game dates is where you actually specify for how long students are able to access that game. So again, you can have it be the entire semester or give them a specific amount of time if you want them to do it over a shorter period. Here's where we set the game mode. So students by default start as college students with a part-time job. And then you can decide if you want them to graduate at some point, and then how many months after they start do they graduate. So that would mean in this scenario that they are playing for an entirety of a year in the game. For 6 months, they are a college student with a part-time job. They graduate, and in the last 6 months, they are a full-time worker. Of course, you can have them be a full-time worker the entire time, and that will just simplify it so that they only have that game mode. If you toggle it on, you'll be able to see all of the different options. So the left-hand column is where you put the different fixed expenses for the part-time mode, and the right-hand column is for the full-time mode. This part at the top applies to both. So this is their starting positions, how much money they have in their checking account, and how much money you have in your savings account. However, we recommend you leave this at 0 because the entire point of the budget game is for students to learn the importance of meeting their savings goals every month. So if you put some money in here, you're kind of giving them a head start, but of course, feel free to do that if you want to. This is where you can change the hourly rate for part-time and full-time mode. And this is where you can change your income tax rate based on your state or province. Down here is where you can see whether the changes you have made are going to be possible for your students to play the game and win. And if it's become too difficult, you'll see some red flags in here, which will just tell you to reset some of these to make it a bit more doable. This part in the middle, the life event emphasis, this is where you can decide what cards pop up in the game. So if you have a month where you want to be talking more about taxes, you can come and check that box and have more cards like this pop up in the game. And if you select nothing, you'll just get a random assortment of all of the cards. If you are also using the stock game, this is where you select all the parameters. By default, it is set to US dollar, but you can change this for any other currency, depending on where you're based in the world, or just another currency if you want your students to get that experience. Here you set their dates for during what time they'll access the stock game. And over here is where you actually set your starting cash. So a new feature that we launched in the fall of last year is the ability to have a very low starting cash, as low as $1. And the goal of this is to have your students then have weekly deposits of some amount of money, you can decide, to try and replicate what it's like for real world investors and how they put money aside from their paycheck to invest for their savings goals. Again, you can keep this money high if you want and still have weekly deposits. It's just to say that if you want them to do some of the lessons first in the game before they have any money to invest, you can do that as well. If you want to change their interest earned on cash to something more realistic to the current market, you can bring that amount down. If you want them to be able to trade on margin, meaning that they have a loan that they're able to use to invest further once they've used their starting cash, you can change the interest rate on the loan. You can set if you want them to be allowed to day trade or short sell. And the minimum stock price for buying. So the higher you put this number, the less volatility that you'll see in the types of stocks that they purchase. And if you bring this number down, you make it easier for your students to buy more volatile stocks like penny stocks. These buttons here can also be turned on or off at any time. This putting this on means that students can see each other's portfolios. Turning this on or off means that your account, your admin account, will actually appear in the rankings. And what we've seen is actually students even get more engaged when they see that they're actually beating their teacher. So you might want to think about having a little portfolio, or you can turn it off if you don't want that pressure. On the last screen here, we have the final trading settings. You can set how many total trades students are able to make. You can limit it specifically how many trades they can make per day. Let's say I want them to only make 5 trades a day, or leave it blank, and they can use as many as they want. This is where you can make the trade notes feature mandatory or not. And down here is where you select your security types. So we have equities, including cryptocurrencies available, as well as ETFs, options, mutual funds, bonds, futures, Forex, and cash spots. You can select all of them very quickly if you want to have all of them enabled, or you can turn the ones off that you don't want your students to have access to. Going further down the screen, you have the same ability to select all the markets or not, or you can just cherry pick the specific ones that you want them to be trading. You also have access to more advanced trading rules. So if you want to set position limits, for example, you don't want your students to invest more than 20% of their overall portfolio in a specific company. This is where you can actually change that amount to 20%, 25%, or any other percentages we have listed there. And we also have at the bottom customized exchanges. So this is good for one of two things. You can either whitelist stocks. So this is useful if, for example, you want to have a list of companies either from your area who follow specific governance policies like ESG companies, and your students will only be able to choose from those companies as a drop-down list when they go to trade. or you can have blacklisted stocks. So this is useful if you're working at an institution that has certain cultural, religious, or other views, and you don't want to have certain companies being listed, or if ever you feel that there's a company that goes against the principles of what you're teaching in your class, you can list your ticker symbols here, and your students will not be able to trade them. The final screen to setting up your class are the assignments. So you've seen a little bit of them so far and what they look like. We have over 300 lessons, once again, on all different features, on investing and getting started in the stock market. We have a few simplified lessons for elementary and middle school. Here are all our personal finance lessons with lots of interactive calculators that would be very fun for your students to use. One of the most popular is the Saving to Be a Millionaire calculator, so they can see how much they need to save every day and what interest rate they need to use to be able to retire and at what age. Earlier, I mentioned the Investing 101 course. So just coming down the screen under here, this is where we have all of the chapters to the Investing 101 course. If this is what you want to teach your students, you can select the entire unit. And also checking this box here means that they can take their exam more than once, or you can turn that off, and that means they only get one try to do their exams. So I will call this lesson Investing 101 course. You can set the dates to be however you like. You can have this be a weekly assignment, or you can have it run the entire semester, which is what I'm going to do here. If I want to give them a reward, I could say that I want them to have in the stock game $1,000 for completing that assignment, which is another great way of ensuring that your students are learning the principles before they invest. So this is useful if you want to set your starting cash to, let's say, $1, $100, and maybe give them a lump sum of even $10,000, however much you want, once they actually finish the lesson. So after you've set up your first course, you come down to create. And now you have a useful link that you can share with your students so that they can get registered to your class. Don't worry if you don't copy this down right away. You will be receiving an email within a couple minutes of setting up your class that has the registration link. And you can also access this at any time by going over to reports. This is a very useful area to get more information about your students' activity. You can see under here an activity report based on how often they're logging in. So you can look at 14 or 30 days. And at the bottom of the screen, you can actually have an overview summary where you can actually just click on each one and see, you know, what they've been doing per student. We also have the registration file. So let's say if you don't want to have to get all your students registered, you can actually generate several accounts at once. And so you just put in the prefix, the number of accounts you want, and they'll appear at the bottom here. This is where you can actually change you can reset their password, you can actually edit their username and email, or you can remove them entirely from your class. Another new feature is the TA account. So let's say you have either a student leader or an assistant in your class, and you want to give them access to be able to pull reports or look at an overview of the assignments and everything. You can make them a TA, and they'll have limited access to all these admin features. We also have a budget game report that will give you more details on how each student is performing in the budget game. And the teams feature. So if you want your students to be ranked as a composition of all of their portfolios, you can click on teams and group your students into teams. So you first just have to create your team. We'll call this Maui Team 1. And we can then add the students to that team. Another area are the custom reports. If you're not able to find what you're looking for on any of the other screens, you can click over here and generate your own reports. So you can see there's, once you click the button for create report, you have all of the user info you can choose from. You have historical data, so last activity, when was the last time they logged in, how many trades have they made. You can also get information on their budget game or even functions. So for example, you want to have a bulk edit of everyone's usernames or reset their passwords or add or remove cache. You're able to do all these things from this screen. To get an overview though, the summary report is the default page you come to when you click on administration and reports. And this is where you will have the registration link that you can share with your students. And you can see at this time how many people have registered, how many people have actually started playing, and how many trades they've made. So that's an overview of Personal Finance Lab. If ever you have any questions, you're able to put in a question here to our support team, which is also available for your students. But of course, you also have an account manager. So if you ever have any questions, you can reach out to someone like myself who can help you on whatever questions you have. Thank you very much for your attention and have a wonderful day.